The mahogany conference table reflected my exhausted face as I signed the last document. Another 16-hour day at the firm, but this time it was different. This time, the bonus check in my hand meant everything. $200,000. Enough to finally pay for Lily's surgery. My hands trembled as I picked up my phone to call Sarah. "We did it," I whispered when she answered. "We can afford the operation now." I heard her sob on the other end. We'd been fighting this battle for 3 years. 3 years of watching our beautiful 7-year-old daughter struggle with a rare heart condition that slowly stole her energy, her laughter, her childhood. The specialized surgery she needed wasn't covered by insurance. $400,000. That number haunted my dreams. But tonight, with this bonus added to our savings, we were halfway there. We just needed $200,000 more. "Maybe your parents," Sarah started, then stopped. We both knew it was our only option left. My parents, Robert and Patricia Chen, had more money than they knew what to do with. Dad's tech company had gone public 5 years ago. They lived in a $15 million mansion in Palo Alto. Surely, they could help their only granddaughter. I hadn't spoken to them in 6 months, not since Mom's birthday dinner when she spent the entire evening criticizing Sarah's dress and questioning why we couldn't afford better schools for Lily. But this was different. This was life or death. The next morning, I drove to their estate. The security guard recognized me and waved me through. As I walked up the marble steps, I rehearsed my words. I wouldn't beg, I would simply explain the situation. They were her grandparents. They would understand. Mom answered the door in her tennis whites, diamonds glittering on her fingers. "Jackson? What are you doing here?" "We're about to leave for the club, Mom. I need to talk to you and Dad." "It's about Lily." Dad appeared behind her, checking his Rolex. "Make it quick, son. We have a reservation." I followed them into their pristine living room, where everything was white and gold and untouchable. Photos lined the mantelpiece, pictures from their travels, their country club events, Dad with various politicians and CEOs. Not a single photo of Lily. "Lily needs surgery," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "She has a rare heart condition. Without this operation, the doctors say she has maybe 2 years. With it, she can live a normal life." Mom's face remained impassive. "I'm sure insurance covers these things." "It doesn't matter. It's experimental, but it has a 90% success rate. We need $400,000. Sarah and I have saved half, but we need help with the rest." Dad set down his golf magazine. $200,000? "Jackson, do you have any idea what you're asking? I'm asking you to save your granddaughter's life." "Don't be dramatic," Mom said, adjusting her tennis bracelet. "There must be other options, cheaper treatments." "There aren't. I've spent 3 years researching. This is her only chance." Dad stood up. "Your sister Emma is getting married next month. We've already committed $300,000 to her wedding. The venue alone cost $70,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. "You're comparing Lily's life to a wedding?" "It's not a comparison," Mom said coldly. "We've made commitments. The Vanderbilts are coming. The governor's family. This wedding is important for our family's reputation. Your granddaughter is dying." The words tore from my throat. "You're being melodramatic," Dad said. "Besides, if you hadn't insisted on marrying that woman, if you'd taken the job I offered you at my company instead of slumming it at that non-profit law firm for all those years, you'd have the money yourself." I stared at them, these strangers who shared my blood. "Sarah is a teacher. She dedicates her life to helping kids, and I left the non-profit to join a corporate firm specifically to pay for Lily's treatment." Mom stood up, smoothing her skirt. "We simply can't help right now. After Emma's wedding, perhaps we can discuss a loan. With interest. Of course. We're not a charity." "A loan? With interest?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "She might not have time to wait until after the wedding." "Then you should have planned better," Dad said, walking toward the door. "You've always been irresponsible, Jackson. Always making emotional decisions. This is what happens when you don't think ahead." I found myself on my knees. Me. A grown man, a lawyer, a father. On my knees in my parents' living room. "Please. I'm begging you. She's 7 years old. She's your granddaughter. Please." Mom actually laughed. A small, tinkling laugh like crystal breaking. "Get up, Jackson. You're embarrassing yourself. I'll pay you back every penny. I'll work 3 jobs. I'll sell our house. Please, just help us save her." Dad opened the front door. "We have to go. The Prescotts are waiting." "You should leave." I stood up slowly, my knees aching, my pride shattered. "If you do this, if you choose a party and a wedding over Lily's life, I will never forgive you." "That's your choice," Mom said, picking up her tennis racket. "We all make choices, Jackson. You chose your path. Now live with it." I drove home in a daze, unable to process what had just happened. When I walked through our apartment door, Sarah took one look at my face and knew. She collapsed into my arms, and we held each other while Lily slept in the next room, unaware that her grandparents had just signed her death sentence. But the universe works in mysterious ways. That night, as we sat at our kitchen table, trying to figure out how to raise another $200,000 in time, Sarah's phone rang. It was her parents, calling from their small farm in Iowa. "We're selling the farm," Sarah's father, Tom, said simply when she put him on speaker. "What? Dad, nope. That farm has been in our family for 4 generations. And Lily is the 5th generation," her mother, Ruth, interjected. "We've already talked to a buyer. With the equipment and the livestock, we can get $250,000. I couldn't speak. These people, who had worked that land their entire lives, who had poured their blood and sweat into every acre, were willing to give it all up for our daughter. "We can't let you do that," Sarah whispered through her tears. "You can't stop us," Tom said firmly. "We're old. We can rent a small place in town, but Lily has her whole life ahead of her. This isn't even a choice." Over the next 2 weeks, everything moved quickly. Tom and Ruth sold their farm, and the money was transferred. We scheduled Lily's surgery for the following month. But we weren't prepared for what came next. My sister Emma called me, screaming, "How dare you try to ruin my wedding? Mom and Dad told me everything. You tried to manipulate them into giving you money that's already been allocated to my special day. Emma, Lily is dying. Stop being so dramatic. Mom says you're exaggerating. It's probably just a minor condition that you're blowing out of proportion to get attention." I hung up on her. There was no point arguing with someone who had been poisoned by my parents' narrative. The day of Lily's surgery arrived. Sarah and I sat in that hospital waiting room for 14 hours, holding hands, praying to every deity we could think of. Tom and Ruth were there too, having driven 10 hours to be with us. My friend Marcus, my college roommate, had flown in from Seattle. Sarah's best friend, Jennifer, had taken time off work. Not a single member of my biological family came, not even a text message. When the surgeon finally emerged, still in his scrubs, his smile told us everything. The surgery was a complete success. "Lily is a fighter. She's going to be just fine." We collapsed in a heap of tears and relief. Tom, this stoic farmer who I'd never seen show emotion, wept openly. Ruth held Sarah like she would never let go. Marcus grabbed me in a bear hug that nearly cracked my ribs. This was family. This was what love looked like. Lily's recovery was remarkable. Within 3 months, she was running around the playground, her laughter filling our home again. The color returned to her cheeks. She started dance classes. She joined the soccer team. Every normal, beautiful thing we had feared she would never do, she was doing. I threw myself into my work with renewed purpose. Not out of ambition, but out of gratitude. I needed to pay Tom and Ruth back, even though they insisted it was a gift. I took on the hardest cases, worked weekends, and within a year, I had made senior associate. Within 2 years, partner. My reputation in corporate law grew. I specialized in tech mergers and acquisitions, ironically, the same field that had made my father wealthy. But I did it my way. With integrity, never forgetting where I came from, or who had saved us when we needed it most. 3 years after Lily's surgery, we had not only paid Tom and Ruth back but had bought them a beautiful house near us. They protested, but I insisted. "You gave us Lily's life. This is the least we can do." Emma's wedding had been everything my parents wanted. It made the society pages. The governor attended. It was a $300,000 spectacle that everyone forgot about a week later. Emma divorced her husband 18 months after that when she caught him with his secretary. The prenup my parents had insisted on meant she got nothing. But I didn't know any of this at the time because I had kept my promise. I had cut my biological family out of our lives completely. I changed our phone numbers. I blocked them on social media. When Lily asked about her other grandparents, we told her they lived very far away. 5 years after Lily's surgery, my career had skyrocketed. I was now managing partner at my firm, handling billion-dollar deals. Sarah had become a principal at her school. We had moved into a beautiful house in a good neighborhood. Lily was thriving, a straight-A student, star of her soccer team and the light of our lives. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my assistant knocked on my office door. "Mr. Chen, there's a Robert and Patricia Chen here to see you. They say they're your parents." My blood turned to ice. "Tell them I'm not available." "Sir, they said they'll wait. They've been in the lobby for 3 hours." I stood up, straightened my tie, and walked out to face them. I barely recognized the people sitting in those chairs. My father had aged 20 years and 5. His hair was completely gray, his face gaunt. My mother's perfect composure had cracked. Her designer clothes couldn't hide the desperation in her eyes. "Jackson," my father stood up. "We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about." Please, my mother said, and I had never heard that word from her lips before. Just 5 minutes. I led them to a conference room, not my office. I wouldn't let them contaminate my personal space. We've lost everything, my father said without preamble. The company went under. Bad investments. The board pushed me out. We're being foreclosed on. I said nothing. We need help. My mother whispered. We have nowhere else to turn. What about Emma? Emma is broke too. Her divorce, and then she invested what little she had left in a scheme that turned out to be fraud. What about the Vanderbilts? The Prescotts? The governor? All those important people you couldn't disappoint? My father's jaw clenched. Fairweather friends. Once the money was gone, so were they. I leaned back in my chair, studying these strangers who had contributed to my DNA but nothing else of value to my life. You want money from me? The son you called irresponsible? The one whose daughter's life was worth less than a wedding? We made a mistake, my mother said, tears actually forming in her eyes. We know that now. A mistake? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You chose a party over your granddaughter's life. That's not a mistake. That's a revelation of character. How is Lily? My father asked quietly. She's perfect. No thanks to you. She's alive because her real grandparents sold everything they had to save her. We want to meet her, my mother said. We want to make amends. No. She's our granddaughter. Biologically, yes. But biology doesn't make you family. Tom and Ruth are her grandparents. They earned that title with sacrifice and love. You forfeited it with selfishness and cruelty. My father's shoulders slumped. We need $200,000, or we'll lose the house. It's all we have left. The irony was so thick I could taste it. The exact amount they had refused to give to save Lily's life. I'll give you the money, I said, and saw hope flare in their eyes. On 3 conditions. First, you sign a legal document acknowledging that this is a one-time gift, and you will never contact me, Sarah, or Lily again. Second, you leave California and never return. Third, you understand that this isn't forgiveness. This is me buying your absence from our lives. My mother sobbed. My father's hands shook as he nodded. I had my legal team draw up the documents that afternoon. They signed them without reading them, their desperation overriding their pride. I wrote the check and handed it to them. Jackson, my father said as they stood to leave. We really are sorry. Sorry doesn't resurrect the dead, I replied. And make no mistake, the son you knew died on his knees in your living room 5 years ago, begging for his daughter's life. The man standing here is someone you don't know and never will. They left. And I felt. Nothing. No satisfaction. No regret. Just nothing. That evening, I went home to my real family. Lily was at the kitchen table doing homework while Sarah cooked dinner. Tom and Ruth were in the living room, watching Jeopardy and arguing about the answers. This was wealth. This was success. Daddy! Lily jumped up and hugged me. Guess what? I got picked for the lead in the school play. That's amazing, sweetheart. I spun her around, her laughter filling the house. And Grandma Ruth is going to help me with my lines, and Grandpa Tom is building the sets. I looked at Tom and Ruth, who beamed with pride. These people, who had started with nothing and given us everything, were richer than my parents had ever been. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, I told Sarah about my parents' visit. She held my hand as I recounted the conversation. Do you regret giving them the money? She asked. No. It's a small price to pay for peace. And honestly, it felt like closing a circle. They refused that amount to save Lily. I gave that amount to get rid of them. There's a poetic justice to it. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Do you think they've really changed? Maybe. Poverty and loss have a way of teaching lessons that wealth never can. But it doesn't matter. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. And some shouldn't be. 2 years passed. Lily was now 15, a beautiful, confident young woman who had inherited Sarah's kindness and my determination. She was the captain of her debate team, a straight-A student, and had just been accepted to a prestigious summer program at Stanford. It was her acceptance letter that triggered the next chapter of this story. Emma found out somehow, perhaps through old mutual friends, and sent me an email that bypassed my filters. Jackson, I know you hate me, but I need you to know the truth. Mom and Dad are living in a trailer park in Nevada. The money you gave them, they used it to pay off debts, not save the house. They've been too proud to tell you. Dad works as a janitor at a casino. Mom cleans motel rooms. They're broken, Jackson. Completely broken. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I deleted it. But the universe wasn't done with this story. A month later, I got a call from a hospital in Reno. My father had suffered a heart attack. He was in critical condition. My mother had given them my number as his emergency contact. I flew to Reno alone, not telling Sarah or Lily. I'm not sure why I went. Closure perhaps. Or maybe just basic human decency. The hospital was nothing like the state-of-the-art facility where Lily had her surgery. It was run down, understaffed, overwhelmed. I found my mother in the waiting room, looking like a ghost of her former self. He needs surgery, she said without preamble. But we don't have insurance. They'll only do the minimum to stabilize him. I went to the billing department and paid for the surgery. Cash. I didn't want them to know. But of course, they found out. When my father woke up after the operation, I was there. He looked at me with eyes that had finally learned to see. Why? He whispered. Because I'm not you, I replied. When someone needs help, and I have the means to provide it, I do. That's what you taught me, not through your words, but through your failure. He cried then. This man who had built an empire, who had dined with governors and CEOs, who had once held the power to save his granddaughter and chose not to. He cried like a child. I dream about her, he said. About Lily. About that day you came to us. It haunts me. Jackson. Every single day, it haunts me. Good, I said, and I meant it. Actions have consequences. Living with those consequences is the minimum price for our choices. My mother entered the room then. She looked between us, hope and fear warring on her face. I'm leaving, I announced. The surgery is paid for. There's also an account set up that will cover your basic expenses, rent, food, medical. It's not luxury, but you won't starve. This is the last time you'll see me. Please, my mother said. Let us meet her. Just once. Let us apologize. She doesn't even know you exist, I said. As far as she's concerned, she has 2 grandparents who love her unconditionally. Tom and Ruth. They're taking her to Europe this summer to celebrate her Stanford acceptance, a trip they saved for 2 years to afford. That's what love looks like. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. You know what the saddest part is? If you had helped us that day, you'd be part of our lives now. You'd know your granddaughter. You'd be at her debates, her soccer games, her birthday parties. You'd have the love and respect of a family that values loyalty above all else. Instead, you have this. I gestured to the stark hospital room, the cheap sheets, the loneliness that permeated everything. You chose this. Not in one moment, but in a lifetime of moments where you picked money and status over family and love. I hope Emma's wedding was worth it. I left then and never looked back. On the plane home, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The story was complete. The circle was closed. When I got home, Lily was in the backyard with Tom and Ruth, planning their European adventure. Sarah was making lemonade, laughing at something Tom had said. This was my family, this was my choice. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she still let me, even at 15, she said, Dad, I'm really lucky, aren't I? To have all of you? We're the lucky ones, sweetheart. Grandpa Tom told me about the farm. About what they did for me. I froze. We had planned to tell her when she was older. She sat up and hugged me tight. I'm going to make them proud. I'm going to become a doctor, and help other kids like me. Kids who need someone to believe in them, to sacrifice for them. I held my daughter, this miracle that almost wasn't, and thought about choices. About the parents who had given me life but nothing else. About the in-laws who had given me everything. About the friends who had stood by us. About the family we choose versus the family we're born into. Some people say blood is thicker than water. But the full saying is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The bonds we choose to forge are stronger than those we're given by accident of birth. My parents are still alive, as far as I know. The account I set up for them still makes monthly disbursements. But they're strangers to me now, strangers who taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. That family isn't about DNA or shared names or inherited wealth. Family is about showing up when it matters. It's about sacrifice without expectation. It's about love that doesn't keep score. It's about Tom and Ruth selling their farm. It's about Marcus flying across the country to sit in a hospital waiting room. It's about Sarah never once blaming me for my parents' cruelty. And it's about a little girl who lived because strangers loved her more than her blood relatives did. That's my story. That's our story. And if you take anything from it, let it be this. You can't choose your relatives, but you can choose your family. Choose wisely. Choose those who would sell everything for you, not those who wouldn't spare change. Choose love over blood, loyalty over lineage, sacrifice over selfishness. Because in the end, when you're on your knees begging for help, it won't be your DNA that saves you. It will be love.